Grammarians are still debating one of our oldest proverbs, specifically whether the phrase should read time and tide waits or time and tide wait for no man. The confusion stems from a rhetorical device called a hendiadys. This occurs when two separate, synonymous words are paired to express a single, amplified idea, much like the phrase kith and kin. Curious, in Old English, this pairing was entirely redundant because the word tide had absolutely nothing to do with the ocean. At its root, tide simply meant a portion of time, a season, or an hour. We still see this original meaning fossilized in words like Yuletide and Eventide. This creates a paradox. If time and tide were originally the exact same thing, why did a maritime nation invent a redundant phrase, and how did a repetition of the word time become our ultimate warning about human mortality? The shift started on the coast, where the physical geography of England forced a change in the language itself. This diagram maps the English coastline. In a seafaring economy, the single most critical fixed time of the day was the arrival of high water. Through centuries of maritime use, the phrase time of the sea was shortened until the water itself simply became known as the tide. The earliest recorded use of time and tide, in 1225, appears as a simple blessing for the specific day and hour of a saint's birth. In the 1400s, Geoffrey Chaucer transformed this benign temporal marker into a dark memento mori. In The Clerk's Tale, Chaucer warns that age creeps in as still as a stone, regardless of a man's youth or his wealth. This reflected a medieval theological view that death strikes every social estate equally. You could not buy a pause in the temporal current. Through Chaucer, the phrase evolved into a reminder that the clock cannot be paused or purchased by human status. The 11th century legend of King Canute provides the ultimate physical dramatization of this concept. Modern culture often misinterprets this story, assuming Canute was an arrogant monarch who believed he had magical control over the waves. King Canute actually staged his own failure at the shoreline to teach his courtiers a vital lesson in humility. This realization of human limits stabilized the proverb's grammar. Between the 16th and 18th centuries, the accompanying verbs shifted from tarry to stay, and finally to wait. Canute's wet feet and the proverb's finalized grammar deliver the same message. The natural order is completely indifferent to human authority. The Renaissance brought a pivot. In Julius Caesar, Shakespeare inverted the fatalistic weight of the proverb. Brutus presents the tide as a narrow window of opportunity that leads to fortune. This is a cross-section of a historic harbor. Opportunity derives from the Latin ob portu, meaning before the port, describing a ship waiting for the tide to rise over a sandbar. If missed, the voyage is ruined, leaving the ship permanently stranded. This nautical reality is often confused with the idiom stem the tide, a Norse phrase implying humans can successfully block the current. Time and tide wait for no man is an urgent command to read life's currents and hoist our sails before the water inevitably recedes.